Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be talking about the novel The History of Tom Jones, a Foundling, written by Henry Fielding in 1749. I'll be particularly concentrating on the book 15 and 16 and also the social mood of the 18th century England. To begin with, let's take the title of the novel, The History of Tom Jones, a Foundling. The most interesting aspect of the title is the usage of the word history. As we all know, history is something to do with the past. The writer, Henry Fielding, uses the word history instead of story or fable or narrative. The diction of the writer throws a light on the particular mode of the 18th century, that is, a century of writers who were dying to find their own genre instead of sticking to their conventional methodologies. They wanted a completely new platform to portray their contemporary social atmosphere. As Tamil writer Sundara Ramasamy wrote, "We need a modern language to capture the essence of a modern man." Likewise, these writers from the 18th century England laid a foundation of a new genre in literature, which is nothing but novel, in order to capture their new society. I'd like to use Bakhtin's ideology in order to explain a little bit about the genre. And as I said, these writers from the 18th century concentrated more on realism, that is, an art of presenting things as they are, more like mimesis by Aristotle. The genre novel attempted to capture the realistic essence of the 18th century man, and it almost depicts all the voices of the world of 18th century England. And I'd like to talk something about Mikhail Bakhtin. Mikhail Bakhtin's ideology, to explain a little bit about the genre novel, we can use two words, that is, polyphony or polyvocal. Bakhtin, a Russian literary critic, uses the term polyphony or polyvocal while understanding the new genre novel. As we all know that the 18th century witnessed an immense growth in industrialization, which eventually created a clear demarcation in the society, the working class and the owning class. As this demarcation was so clear, there was a need for a new genre to express all kinds of classes in the society, that is, capturing all the voices of the society. Novel helped them to do so. Though Henry Fielding concentrates only on the fashionable society of London, the genre was later used to express all the voices of the society by writers such as Dostoevsky, Balzac, Victor Hugo, etc. As I said before, the English writers from the 18th century were more interested in history as they took an inspiration for their characters from historical figures. Bakhtin, in his work The Dialogic Imagination, writes, "Histories are like novels, in that they set out to provide more or less comprehensive accounts of social system." As I said earlier, it is in this way the 18th century writers used the term used this new genre in novel. It is also important to know the literary trends in the 18th century in order to understand the significance of Tom Jones. This century witnessed numerous trends and genres in literature. This age is also known as the Age of Enlightenment and the long 18th century, and also the Age of Formalism. Stephen Hicks, in his book Explaining Postmodernism, Skepticism and Socialism from Rousseau to Foucault, argues that this age was dominated by the Enlightenment vision. It is obvious that the greatest achievement of the century is the genre novel. There are three main reasons for the popularity of this genre at this time: the rise of the philosophical rationalization, the influence of Puritanism and Methodism, and the increase in number of reading public helped the genre to stand on its own. And Ian Waite, a literary critic, comments on this century as this century saw the rise of the economic individualism. And as we know that the form novel has no perfect predecessor, there was no model literally available for the writers to imitate or alter. It was completely original. Since there was no model at all, it was more experimental. The writers engaged themselves in producing numerous possibilities of narration, character sketching, and plot developing. They are now free agents and not dependent on the patrons. This age saw the rise of the middle class, which eventually led to the expansion of the reading public. As I said before, the writers were concentrating more on realism. It is surprising to note that when the genre was at its inception, there were many kinds of novels, namely satirical novels practiced by Jonathan Swift, bourgeois sentimental novels practiced by Samuel Richardson, realist novels Daniel Defoe, and comic novels Henry Fielding, and also we've got some more experimental novels written by or practiced by Lawrence Sterne. It is noteworthy to mention that there is another kind of novel in the 18th century which the writers practiced, that is Bildungsroman. A Bildungsroman novel deals or concentrates with the moral and psychological growth of the main character. The meaning of the word Bildung in German is education, and Roman is novel, that is new. It was very popular during 18th century England. An example for this kind of novel is Siddhartha, written by Hermann Hesse, a German writer. It is an allegorical novel set in 6th century India around the time of the Buddha, follows a young man on his search of enlightenment. It focuses on a single conflict, situation, or event and the hero's quest for individual education or enlightenment. Likewise, the history of Tom Jones follows the same pattern of building the character of Tom Jones and revolves around his growth of personality and educate the reader about the character. And I think it would be good to quote a line from Siddhartha: writing is good, thinking is better, cleverness is good, patience is better. Likewise, this novel revolves around the character Siddhartha and his psychological growth of the characters eventually uh, getting better or getting evolved during the flow of the novel. Let's move on to the story part. The 15th book opens with the writer attacking the argument of moral writers who asserts that virtue is the certain road to happiness. Though Tom is trying to unite Nightingale and Nancy, he is not in good terms with Sophia. He cannot win Sophia's heart. The narrator creates a situation like this to expose the falsity of the moral writers. On the other hand, Lord Fellamar has fallen in love with Sophia. The plot gets complicated as this is being supported by Lady Bellaston as she thinks to have Tom Jones for herself. We got to know a secret society named Little World in which Lady Bellaston is a member. This secret society spread gossips like Lady Sneovel in the play The School for Scandal. As we all know that the 18th century fashionable society of London was filled with gossips and hypocrisy. So this secret society, Little World, spreads a gossip about a young man named Tom Jones. As the gossip says, the young man has killed someone in a duel. Sophia, after hearing this story, feels a weight in her chest. Lord Fellamar cleverly uses this opportunity to woo Sophia. Lady Bellaston, in order to get Jones, plots a cunning plan. According to the plan, Lord Fellamar should sexually force Sophia in order to get her love. Though Lord Fellamar rejects the idea at first, Lady Bellaston manages to persuade him to execute the plan. Unaware of the pain or unaware of the plan, we can find Sophia in her room reading a play, The Fatal Marriage, written by Thomas Southern. As Lord Fellamar tries to sexually assault her, she's so shocked of this unprecedented abuse and she screams out loudly. Sophia's father, Squire Weston, suddenly barges in, trying to rescue her. Seeing this immoral act of Lord Fellamar, Squire Weston rejects the idea of him marrying Sophia. It comes as a surprise to Lord Fellamar that Sophia's father had already arranged a suitor named Blifil. After encountering this unpleasant situation, Squire Weston plans to confine Sophia again. We find that Mrs. Horner, who is a servant of Sophia, visits Mrs. Miller to tell Tom what has happened. In this scene, Mrs. Horner overhears Lady Bellaston's motives of winning Tom's heart. Accidentally, Nightingale, who is drunk, enters Tom's room where Mrs. Horner is hiding. Eventually, Lady Bellaston knows the presence of Mrs. Horner and calmly leaves the place. As a result of Tom's virtuousness, Nightingale and Nancy are married. It is a relief for Nightingale as her cousin, who was supposed to marry Nightingale, married a clergyman without her father's consent. Now he is happy with Nancy. Now Nightingale's situation is in such a good shape, therefore Tom concentrates on his own affairs from now on. In the meanwhile, Lady Bellaston sends letters to Tom requesting him to attend her needs. As Tom is confused with Lady Bellaston's approach, Nightingale helps him to get out of this unnecessary commitment by asking Tom to propose a marriage settlement with Lady Bellaston. Nightingale knows that Lady Bellaston's love for Tom is only physical and not platonic. Tom follows the same idea and writes a marriage proposal to Lady Bellaston, for which she hates Tom and condemns him as a villain. In the meanwhile, Mrs. Miller receives a letter from Alworthy saying that he and Blifil wish to take rooms on an upcoming visit to London. Because he took care of her years ago, she always grants his request for rooms, and so Nightingale and Tom must move out. Tom realizes that if Blifil is in town, his marriage to Sophia would only be a dream. Horner writes to Tom saying that she can no longer help his case with Sophia because Lady Bellaston is now her employer. Patridge discovers that Black George is also in town with Alworthy, and George tells Patridge that they have come for the marriage to Sophia. He is willing to take a letter to her from Tom. So this is the end of the 15th book, and the 16th book starts with Sophia's mother forces Sophia to marry Blifil. We can find Sophia requesting her father to push her into his unpleasant marriage, but the father doesn't listen. Actually, the Sophia's father is who is forcing Sophia to marry Blifil, and Sophia's mother tries to prevent that marriage. And Black George, a friend of Tom's, helps Tom to contact Sophia by taking a note from him. In that message, Tom wishes luck for Sophia's choice. As I said earlier, she's in confinement and she overhears the conversation between her parents. Her mother, as I already said, argues with her husband to release Sophia from her confinement. Sophia writes to Tom saying that she will neither comply with nor defy her father. He is pleased that she has her freedom and that she said she will not marry another man. And we see Tom, Patridge, Mrs. Miller, and her youngest daughter go to a performance of Hamlet. Squire Weston persuades Blifil to marry Sophia immediately. On the other hand, Alworthy is concerned by Sophia's firm rejection of Blifil, since he does not want to force anyone unwillingly into marriage. Blifil talks Alworthy around, saying he will use tender means to win over Sophia. And also, we find Mrs. Weston is lecturing Sophia on marriage. Still, Lord Falmer have feelings for Sophia as he employs a captain to pursue Tom to run away from the town. At this moment, Sophia's mother gets to know that Tom has proposed Sophia through Lady Bellaston. On the other hand, Tom seeks the help of Fitzpatrick. The last chapter of the book starts with Tom visiting Mrs. Fitzpatrick. To Tom's surprise, Mr. Fitzpatrick suspects him of wooing his wife. He challenges Tom a duel. Tom Jones helps him defending and attacks Mr. Fitzpatrick. Suddenly, the blame falls upon Tom and he was taken to the magistrate. It is later that we get to know through the narrator that the people who took Tom to the magistrate are Lord Falmer's gang. Falmer, being successful in his plan, cleared his way for Sophia. Patridge arrives the next morning with the shocking news that Mr. Fitzpatrick has died. He also brings Tom a letter from Sophia in which she says she got to know his proposal to Lady Bellaston and never wants to see him again. And this is how the book ends. As I said earlier in the video, the book deals with a hero and revolves around this hero who is a foundling who tramps up London in a quest for fortune. It is also noteworthy to mention again that the book captures the fullest and richest picture of the 18th century England and manners. Thank you.